Assalamu alaikum and good evening. You are listening to Let's Talk, our weekly current affairs show with me, Akil Khalil, and my co-host Hamid Chowdhury.
Assalamu alaikum.
On Salaam Radio 106.2 FM and Inspire FM in Luton. You can listen to us online at salamradio.co.uk or watch the show live on our streaming services. Search for Salaam Radio on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. If you prefer mobile, please download and use our Salaam Radio app from App Store or Google Play. Salaam Radio is always on air, 24/7, 365, uniting all communities. As ever, please get involved with your opinions by calling us on 01733 602 133, or you can text WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Islam.
Oh my God, it feels good to be back.
It does feel good to be back.
It's been a while, obviously.
Yeah, it has been a while.
It's feeling a bit rusty,
but you know what?
I think we did all right there, actually.
Yeah, you mentioned all these channels that we're on.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm constantly getting stopped in the street, autographs and whatever.
Hey,
do you get the same experience?
No, I don't.
Are you serious?
No.
SubhanAllah.
You know what they say. We're a team. You can have all the limelight and people is recognize you.
SubhanAllah, that's how it is, man.
Yeah, I've seen you in so many people's Instas and selfies.
So many people's what?
Instagrams and, and such like.
Yeah, I think since the Facebook scandal, I'm off social media. Not that I was ever on social media, but clearly you're on loads of different platforms.
Please search, please search Dr. Chowdhury, listeners, if you want to
Dr. Chowdhury. You'll get some other guy, Dr. Chowdhury.
Although I am told that it got to a stage where you actually started charging people for selfies, brother. £1 a go.
Yeah, I was paying them £1 a go.
Yeah, okay, that sounds like the truth.
But subhanAllah, no, I tell you what, it's mashallah, I don't know, we think it's a good channel, good station.
Salaam Radio is a fantastic station.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, but what I was trying to get at is that it's a great opportunity to kind of get our views out there.
Absolutely,
and, but we'd love to hear from people. I mean, we very rarely, we used to get Dr. Shabina calling in regularly, but she's given up. Dr. Shabina, are you listening? Although Amar's listening, so he'll probably call in.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Amar, if you are listening, please do. And we're talking about Brother Amir here, listeners, the person who should be in that seat, but he seems to be on some sort of long-term leave. I know you're listening, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, before we crack on with the show, the weather. I was in London yesterday, right? I was in London yesterday, 9:30 in the morning, 18 degrees.
Yeah, I know, it's shocking.
I was just like, wow, but by the time it was midday, it was 29 degrees.
I tell you, we complain when it's cold and we complain when it's hot.
Actually, I'm enjoying it.
No, you were complaining.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you, I was enjoying it, but I prefer the rain.
Yeah, you prefer the rain?
I prefer rain.
Well, you're in the car all the time, so it doesn't really matter.
That's not the point. I prefer rain. That's my weather of choice.
No, actually, I don't like it, the midday heat. That's just way too hot. But I like it about this time now.
Okay.
Where you got that cool breeze and, it's warmish breeze. Which is nice. Reminds me of Pakistan.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, listen, we're heading towards Ramzan at the moment.
We are a month away. Well, less than a month away.
Less than a month away. So this will typically be about the time when we'll be breaking for fast. So you are right. So this is
probably a bit later, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Absolutely. Okay. So anyway, how have you been? Obviously, we haven't done the show for a while.
No. You've not been on the show, but we haven't done it actually. But alhamdulillah, it's just same old really. I don't know. I mean, I was in Edinburgh actually a few weeks ago, which was nice. It was raining constantly.
Brilliant.
For the 3 days we were there, it was spitting constantly, which is typical Edinburgh weather. Yeah. No,
nice place though, Edinburgh.
Sorry?
It's a nice place.
Yeah, we got 1 day's heat, 1 day's sun, and the taxi driver said, "Well, this is it for the year." This is the quota done. But no, it's I tell you what. If those people are listeners out there who haven't been, wonderful place, wonderful people. I mean, I went when I was doing my university days, and I absolutely loved the people, and nothing's changed. They're wonderful people, very welcoming, very happy to see you and speak to you.
Yeah,
and
definitely hospitable.
Yeah. Really, really hospitable. Really nice.
Excellent. Okay, so for tonight's show, listeners, we have a couple of topics. In the first part of the show, we're going to be discussing Syria. Once again, red lines have been breached by Assad and allegedly by Assad and his regime, and Russia as well. And so the Western response has been a bombing campaign. So we're going to be discussing that.
Poor campaign.
And then in the second half of the show, a topic which is certainly poignant and affecting many people in the United Kingdom, and being sons of people who migrated to this country from the Commonwealth, I think is a very pertinent issue we're going to be discussing as well, which is the plight of the people, the generation of the SS Windrush. So we'll be speaking about that and discussing, the establishment and racism and so on and so forth. So please stay tuned in for all that. So yeah, start the show. As you're all aware, the Americans, the Brits, and the French, and this has been widely documented. By many actually commentators, illegally bombed Syria in a retaliatory fashion. So the allegation here is that the Syrian regime used chemical weapons on its own people, killed or maimed many of them. And so President Trump, Theresa May, Macron, who said he had actual evidence about this, wanted to retaliate somehow, wanted to send a sign to the regime to say, look, a year after, you remember this happened 12 months ago as well. We have a situation where there are no checks. Who is actually saying anything to Bashar al-Assad and trying to hold him to account for the crimes that have happened underneath his rule? And the other issue you have here as well is when the UN Security Council has been discussing the issue of Syria, Russia has consistently used this veto to prevent any inspections of any description from taking place, therefore protecting its ally. Okay, so what we've been told is, look, there's a stalemate in the UN, but we need to do something. Something needs to happen. So it's an interesting development, especially when you look at the reasoning why what Theresa May gave in the Commons about what happened underneath. It was to the protection of humanitarian, essentially, response. Although when it was looked at from a legal point of view, it was deemed that, look, you've taken retaliatory action against his regime. It isn't to the spirit of the law. For why they bombed them. So, I mean, just to give our listeners some facts here before you come in, brother. Human Rights Report states that 80 chemical attacks in Syria have taken place since 2013. Now, even though this report indicates that the Syrian regime is responsible for the majority of them, only twice has there been a response by the coalition forces or anyone from the West. So it begs the question, why on this occasion has that happened? I know Jeremy Corbyn stood up in Parliament and he pressed the Prime Minister, and she again said we responded because of the use of chemical weapons. Now, following the days since the response from Trump and so on and so forth, it transpires that the Russians had made the Syrian army and Syrian leadership aware that this is what's going to happen, so they moved a considerable amount of their arsenal, even including some of the chemical weapons and so on and so forth, away, so that wouldn't go. So therefore, in turn, because Bashar al-Assad was of the impression, look, they're going to bomb multiple targets, so if I move a considerable amount of my assets, I won't be left as weak. So his shield, for want of a better word, had almost been weakened, and there was an ample opportunity here for the governments to get involved, to take significant action. I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, if once they made this decision to go in and bomb Syria, whether you agree with it or not, the targets that they actually hit haven't made a difference here or there. No. Although some of the generals in the US Army have said, oh, well, this is taking him back many years, but by the same token, they're also saying, oh, but he can still develop chemical weapons. So what did you do?
Yeah.
And what we've also learned from here as well is nothing's changed on the ground for the Syrians. when we talk about Syria, when you listen to people in the media and you listen to the leaders of certainly in the Western world, no one talks about the Syrian people.
Yeah.
What they talk about is how they want to have a change and how they want to see this and that happen. I mean, over the past 6 years, every couple of years, from the Obama administration now to Trump's administration, they've been talking about pulling out the 2,000 United States Marines who are fighting ISIL in Syria at the moment and replacing them with an Arab coalition force, which in itself has complications. So they want to get out themselves. But the other issue they've got on the ground as well is that the Saudis are not happy that there's no Arab-led initiative on the ground. So there's Western outside influences trying to take control of different parts of Syria. To me, it's a sad state of affairs for a start. Where are we? 2011, the Syrian war started.
Yep.
You're listening to Salaam Radio, and it's now time for Maghrib Azan.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته وبسم الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. So the best of you are those
If you want to learn about Islam and Muslims, stay tuned to
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back.
We're back.
We're back. Where were we? So, listeners, we were discussing Syria. If you want to get involved in the show, please call the station on 01733 602 133, or you can text and WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978. I was just building the picture there for Brother Hamid. So, we have a situation here now where some people say you're damned if you don't, and you're damned if you do. Right, and what I'm saying right now is they've taken unilateral action, and it feels like I sort of understand why they've done it, but by the same token, I don't see what it's actually achieved. What's your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about Syria, and I think it's been going on for about 7 years, the civil war in Syria, and what's probably interesting is that over that period, I mean, we kind of forget what's happened yesterday. So over that period, I think the reason why the civil war started in the first place is probably to a large extent forgotten, and now we've got a whole set of different dimensions which are being discussed outside the context of what actually happened. So I just wanted to kind of just glide through very quickly, just kind of a bit of history around it. So as you said, February 2011. We get this. What happens is that 18 boys around 11 years old, they're just messing about near a school in Dara, and they're just writing graffiti on the walls and stuff. And then they write this statement that people want to overthrow the government. We're talking about 11-year-old kids. So they're fooling about. Now that leads on to their arrest, brutal treatment, torture. The parents are going to the police station. They get treated badly. Actually, the police officer there tells them, "Look, forget you ever had these kids. Go and impregnate your wives and have more kids. And if you can't do that, we'll do that for you." This kind of really demeaning, humiliating stuff. So anyway, so 18 days later, nothing really happens. So we start getting more protests. We get protests by March. Spreading across Syria. And the government is responding with brutality, with live ammunitions, shots being fired. People are dying now. By March, like I said, 20,000 people are protesting. The following day, the 24th of March, the following day, the police or armed forces open fire, kill loads of people. By 6 months, that death toll is about 1,000. And 2018, currently, we're standing at 1 million deaths in Syria and 15 million people made homeless, displaced inside and outside the country. So that's the historical kind of narrative as very quickly as to how we got here. Now, it doesn't matter which way the government or whichever government spins it or whoever spins it, that is the reality. The reality is that some people standing up, protesting against what they see as oppression in their country against themselves, and we led to over 1 million deaths. Now, it's not the first time. You made loads of points, but it's not the first time Bashar al-Assad has used chemical weapons. No. And it's not the first time we've talked about red lines. And actually, he's just carrying on from what his father, Hafiz al-Assad, did. And he ruled Syria with an iron fist. Effectively, he killed a huge number of Syrians when he was in government. And then Bashar al-Assad, who pretty much had all his education in the West. In Britain in particular, and when he was, quote unquote, elected or selected to be the leader or the president of Syria, people felt that there might be change now because he's had his education in the West, right? Yeah. So he's come here, he's opened his eyes, he's learned a lot of stuff, in probably a different direction. But as we see today, no, that's not the case, and that's never really happened. He himself has equally, if not more than his father, has brutalized the people of Syria. Now, the reality of what's happened now is where we have this chemical attack now, and we have the United States, France, and Britain decide to bomb Syria. well, not bomb Syria, bomb a few targets in Syria. Actually, a report out today was that the Russian Sergei Lavrov, he said that they actually told the Americans, these are no-go areas, you can't touch these, and these are the areas you can bomb within. You know, so the point is, if you're trying to say, well, we're going to undermine their ability to produce chemical weapons, or we're going to undermine their ability to stockpile these things, well, quite honestly, they enough rhetoric initially with a quote unquote timetable for them to move for them to move whatever, which is what they did, chemical weapons, which is probably what they did. And secondly, I'm reminded of when the Israelis are not signed up to the non-proliferation agreement, yet they have nuclear weapons. And when the UN group responsible for it went to investigate, they literally blocked up. So they did all their work underground, and they blocked up all the passages to that. So to me, and then I mean, whether there was any real intent to find out or not, that's a questionable position. But the point is that if you're a regime who's doing something illegal, you're not going to do it out in the open. Yeah. So most likely you're going to have this complex underground bunkers and underground labs and underground complexes within which you will build this stuff. So bombing a few buildings here and there for what? So what effectively, for what effectively is I mean, I'll take to say, but it sounds more like a publicity stunt on the part of Donald Trump. He's eager to do something. We're locked and loaded. Let's do something. Let's tell people we're still in charge, although they're not. But then let's not do anything that will upset the Russians. So you tell us where you want us to bomb, and we'll bomb in those places. I mean, I don't know. I'm being cynical, but the reality is this: that over 1 million people have died now in 7 years.
That's right.
Right, in this civil war, which has only got to this point not because of Bashar al-Assad, although he's obviously the party directly responsible for it, but because of the dragging of heels by the West, which initially, if it backed up FSA, Free Syrian Army, which are actually the members of the Syrian army who felt that the actions taken by the government was wrong in attacking their citizens, and then they broke away and set up FSA to then counter the government's actions and protect the civilians. Now, the British government in particular, along with the Americans, but in particular the British government, dragged its heels, agreed to go conference, then decide not to go conference, decide to back this and back that, and this is what ends up happening. We end up in a situation where Bashar al-Assad gets a bit of a boost in confidence. Hey, great, this is brilliant, nobody wants to check me, whether there was any willingness on their part to do that or not, and the Russians coming, and now after this attack, they're saying, well, we have no moral responsibility to not supply Bashar al-Assad with land to air missiles, which they will now do, because this has given them a moral imperative to do so. So what has been achieved? I mean, quite honestly, what has been achieved? What was the objective, and what has been achieved? Nothing except that Syrians have died. And I just want to quote you this, and this is what I was looking for earlier. Is that this? A friend of mine put it on there. He said, bombs that cost $100,000. Shot by aircraft that cost $100 million and fly at a cost of $40,000 per hour to kill people who live with less than $1 a day.
It's disgusting.
I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, that is absolutely.
I mean, if they really want to do something, they'll put boots on the ground, just like they did in Iraq. And nothing in Iraq, we didn't get 1 million deaths before the invasion happened.
What I would say is, I agree with you on the element where when Obama initially said, look, these are the red lines. If action was taken then, and it was done with allied forces and so on and so forth, we wouldn't be where we are. I'll tell you, we're heading towards the break. Exactly ahead for that, brother. But what I'm going to say here before we go to the break is a little extract from an article by Mehdi Hassan, and he says, the truth is that Bashar al-Assad is not an anti-imperialist of any kind, nor is he a secular bulwark against jihadism. He is a mass murderer, plain and simple.
That's right.
In fact, the Syrian dictator long ago booked his place in the blood-stained pantheon of modern mass murderers, alongside the likes of Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Henry Kissinger and George W. Bush. I can think of few human beings alive today who have more blood on their hands than he has.
I'll put Tony Blair in there. Did he have
Tony Blair?
I'll put Tony Blair in there.
And I'll say, I have to concur.
And David Cameron, because they undermined the Libyan state now, which is a failed state, and many people have died and left a wide opening for likes of ISIS to come in and set up base. And Cameron for his inaction in Syria and dragging the hills. So quite honestly, all of these, you know, and Obama, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, you know, who under his presidency more people died of drone attacks than any other, and these are civilians we're talking about.
That's right.
Did diddly swat in this process. And I know we're going to a break. So.
We are, Listen, thanks for that, listeners. Please stay with us. We're just going to an ad break, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing the Windrush generation. Jazakallah khair.
Have you visited Amar Food Store yet? Now open at Lincoln Road Triangle, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. All your favourite brands under one roof. We take payment by card, have free customer parking and offer a free local delivery service. Also available, PayZone for bill payments and money transfer services to Pakistan. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat. Now open at Lincoln Road Triangle. Call us on 01733 68 73 74. High in quality, low in prices. Third world and developing countries are home to some of the most vulnerable children on the planet. Malnutrition, severe lack of medical aid and access to clean water are just some of the horrific challenges faced by orphans across Africa and Asia. Children of Adam, a Peterborough charity, need your help to bring aid to these orphans for just £25 a month. To sponsor an orphan or assist with other projects, please call 0300 321 0032 or visit www.childrenofadam.net.
Need a great place to chill out? Look no further than The Lounge for quality food and drinks at a great price. Try our varied menu: pasta, seafood, burgers, grills, salad, soup, rice and sides. Also hot and cold drinks, milkshakes and mocktails. Leave room for our exquisite desserts. The Lounge, 417 Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call 01733 709 306 to order for delivery. The Lounge, friendly service with a great atmosphere.
सलाम रेडियो और पेनी अपील ने एक शाम का बंदोबस्त किया है। कवालियों की शाम उस्ताद नुसरत फतेह अली खान के नाम, जहां चांद अली खान कवाल और पार्टी बाकायदा हमें अच्छी सी कवालियां सुनाएंगे और उनके अलावा मुशायरा और गज़लें भी होंगी। और जो भी पैसा होगा वो पाकिस्तान में पानी के कुएं लगवाने का बंदोबस्त किया जाएगा। और ये चैरिटी का प्रोग्राम है। ये संडे एतवार 29 अप्रैल को होगा ग्लैडस्टोन पार्क कम्युनिटी सेंटर में। दरवाजे खुलेंगे 6 बजे। टिकटों के लिए आप कासिम से रब्ता करें, सिर्फ £10 टिकट है। कासिम का टेलीफोन नंबर है 077 22 55 884। 29 अप्रैल 6 बजे उस्ताद नुसरत फतेह अली के नाम एक शाम, जहां चांद अली खान कवाल एंड पार्टी आ रहे हैं। इसमें ज़रूर तशरीफ़ लाएं और चैरिटी को सपोर्ट करें। शुक्रिया।
Sahih al-Bukhari, narrated by Abu Huraira. A man came to Allah's Apostle and said, O Allah's Apostle, who is more entitled to be treated with the best companionship by me? The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, Your mother. The man said, Who is next? The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, Your mother. The man further said, Who is next? The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Your mother." The man asked for the fourth time, "Who is next?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Your father."
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salaam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Let's Talk.
आका करीम अलैहिस्सलाम की मजलिस से नूर सजी है।
Shut that down, bro.
हज़रत अनस बिन मालिक रज़ियल्लाहु ताला।
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Let's Talk, our weekly current affairs show, with me, Akil Khalil, and my co-host Hamid Chowdhury.
Sorry, we just prayed, so.
Alhamdulillah. Thanks for staying with us, listeners. We are going to be discussing the Windrush generation. We would love to hear from you. Especially if you have been affected by this or know somebody who's been affected by this. You can call the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text and WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978. Now the question we're going to be asking is, how much are the goings on at the Home Office motivated by some people seeing members of the Windrush generation as not quite British? Okay, so I'll read a statement to you. In 2012, Theresa May, and I quote, stated, "The aim is to create here in Britain a really hostile environment for illegal immigrants." My, you know how that has, how the Home Office has actually done that. You know, even though people complain about it being incompetent, it's certainly achieved that state, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's become brutally clear that developing this scandal, certainly over this past week, that the Windrush generation are victims of a very, very hostile environment created for British citizens. And you know, watching people who've been affected by it in the news, seeing Amber Rudd's apology, May's apology in the Commons, I was just completely flabbergasted at this whole situation, where in one hand we're saying, oh no, you're going to be fine, you're here, you don't need anything, nothing's ever going to happen. But while May was Secretary of State, Home Secretary, yeah, she put into place mechanisms, and they did say at the time this is to try and control immigration and such like, but it feels like there was no foresight in how it was going to affect people from the Commonwealth. And lest we forget that the people who came to this country, I think it was from 1948 to and onwards, certainly between 1948 and 1971, from the Caribbean, etc. They were here to rebuild this country. This country had been decimated. There was no one here to do the jobs, the people who need to build the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. Now, 50 years later, decades later, these people have been stopped from using NHS. In some cases, critical medicine, such as cancer treatment. People have been prevented from working. People who have been, for example, the person in the news in the past week or so, who's a special needs teacher, has lost his job. But there's not just him. There's more like him who have really, really, really important roles in their communities, in society, who, for no fault of their own, have been up against this new criteria which has been imposed on employers by the Home Office, and they've lost their livelihoods. But not only that, when this has happened, people have been shipped to detention centres. I mean, horrifying stories on other networks about people being taken from their jobs or taken from their homes, sitting in the back of a van, treated like just like a piece of meat, taken to a detention centre. But then the security staff in the detention centre, they themselves are shocked, thinking, what are you doing here? And they're being prepared to, being sent back to the countries that they've come from. It's a scandal, brother. Now, me and you, we are sons of people who've come from the Commonwealth, who came to this country as well. And I think it's really important to stress here, even though the majority of people who have been affected by this are certainly in the media, are from the Afro-Caribbean society, etc., backgrounds. There are Indians, there's Pakistanis, there's Sri Lankans. Although the plight of the Windrush generation is what we're discussing, but everybody's affected here. What we're seeing here is a concerted effort by the establishment to use words like immigrant and minority as one, but they're not one.
Yeah. I suppose, I mean, just to kind of give a context to the listeners, that the reason why they call the Windrush generation is that the Empire Windrush, which was Her Majesty's ship, a warship in 1948, was traveling, had a stopover in Jamaica or the Caribbean islands, and there was an advert in the paper that come to Britain, and help rebuild Britain, because you had Britain and its colonies, right? The British Empire and its colonies. So people chose, because after the Second World War, they were part of the British Army, and some of them were based here. Then they went back and then thought, okay, and others just never been to Britain. Thought, well, this is a great opportunity. And the reason why they used Windrush is because it was a government initiative to subsidize their travel. So they got onto this Windrush, this ship, and came to the UK to help, as he said, to help rebuild Britain, like other people did from other parts of the world, other Commonwealth countries as well. But then you see, the problem is when they got here, I mean, the weather wasn't really great, I suppose, people if coming from Caribbean, and then they were faced with huge amounts of racism, and a lot of them never suffered this level of racism before. In jobs, in housing, when they were turned away, and so on and so forth. There was a lot of huge amounts of racism, considering we just come out of a war. Lest we forget. And one of the primary things about the war was this kind of xenophobia is intolerable. And yet, when they came here, they suffered this racism. Anyway, moving forward, so in 1962, trying to curtail this people coming to Britain, the Commonwealth Immigration Act was formed, which restricted entry into the UK, but didn't impact the people from the colonies, so they were fine. Then in 1968 there was an amendment done to that act, and that was partly driven again by fears and xenophobia, partly driven by the expulsion of Kenyans, from Kenya, especially the Indians, and there was a fear that they will come to the UK. So within 3 days, they ran the amendment through Parliament, and it was made law. And in 1971, now this is the crucial thing, and this is why there's this thing. So in 1971, they consolidated this act and brought the Immigration Act, which effectively defined, who would be granted citizenship and who wouldn't. And one of the things in the act was that if you were here and you were settled before 1971, then you had an indefinite leave to remain. Now there was huge amounts of xenophobia and racism around that time, and partly it was driven, and these acts, these acts of restrictive acts, a lot of them have been brought in by the Conservative government. That's important to remember. Now, I don't want to go Conservative bashing, but that's important to remember in this case. And it was the Conservative Monday Club, who were a group of MPs who were instrumental in whipping up this hate and xenophobia at the time. The point being that, again, around that time, there was huge amounts of anti-immigration rhetoric, in particular, and this one caught my eye, by Peter Griffith, who again was a Conservative Party member in 1964, and he ran on this ticket, on this slogan that if you want a N for neighbour, then vote Labour. That's the level of racism that was inbred in the Conservative Party. Disgusting. And I fear that, I do fear that with in 2010 with the enactment of this, creating a hostile environment, although it's being it's defined around illegal immigrants, but clearly these are legal immigrants that have fallen in within that. Yes. Within that policy, I fear that the Conservative Party again is infiltrated by this kind of thought and rhetoric, especially post-Brexit. As we move towards Brexit, is this a telltale sign of people being treated? I mean, other European citizens being treated in this country like that, or British citizens who are living in, after Brexit, will be living in Europe, in France, in Germany, and places like that, may receive that treatment. I mean, this is. I mean, I don't know. I fear that these things are, these things that you would, if you ever had a thought, in the moment of weakness, you just check it out. It'll never happen. No, that kind of racism, we're beyond that.
Yeah.
But these people are suffering. Yeah. And the Windrush are literally suffering the same level of discrimination. Because I'll tell you what happened. In 2010, it doesn't matter what Theresa May says, a Home Office, a Home Office worker, he said that the landing cards. So what's happened is that they're saying, look, prove that you were here before 1971. Yeah. So a lot of these people, they need proof. So they don't really, you don't keep your utilities bill for the last 50 years, right? So there's no real. But there was the landing cards when they landed in the UK. So they had those cards. So in 2010, they chose to destroy. They took a decision to destroy those cards, even though many people in the Home Office objected to that decision. Why we're destroying? Oh, there's not enough room. Okay, well, let's digitize them. Oh no, we can't do that because it's data privacy. Well, actually no, we're not doing by the Data Privacy Act. So there was this whole movement towards let's get rid of these landing cards. And once those landing cards were destroyed in 2013, they demanded people prove that. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy here, but I know you start stitching things together and you wonder where it will lead. And right now it's leading at Theresa May's doorsteps, that she actively, in attempt at trying to create a hostile environment in Britain, actively pursued a policy to destroy these landing cards and then demand those people who, as in the Windrush generation, then demand that they prove, the burden of proof is on them, which really should be a burden of proof on the government.
Yeah.
But to prove that they were here, living here before 1971 to have an indefinite leave to remain. It's disgusting. It's disgusting the way they have gone about it. I mean, take the case of Ellen Thompson, who was denied cancer treatment and asked to pay £50,000 because he couldn't provide evidence that satisfied them. So there was another thing that came out of the Home Office, that before the hostile environment concept came about, people had, and if people applied and there was time enough for them to talk and be realistic about, we'll take that evidence and that's fine, and but now after 2013 they've been told no. You either have absolute evidence or you reject the claim and deport these people. So some of them saying, come to the Home Office and we'll talk it through. But some of the lawyers are saying, no, don't go to the Home Office, because if you go there and you can't prove, they'll put you on immediately in a van and take you to the detention center. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was certainly on BBC. So it's disgusting, the tactics that the government's using. I mean, these were people who came to this country, helped rebuild this country, and now when they are old and in pensionable age, when they paid their taxes all their life, the pensionable age, now they're being told that actually you're a burden on us, let's kick you out. It's disgusting.
It's absolutely disgusting. What do you think, listeners? As you can see, obviously, Brother Hamid, very passionate there. You can get involved with your comments about this really, really poignant subject. You can call the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text and WhatsApp the show on 07745 278 978.
The other thing I want to add, this one last thing is that this policy that's brought in, they've applied it retrospectively.
Yes.
Which is against human rights. It's illegal to apply a policy retrospectively. It's like saying, look, you've come to the studio, you can have a drink of water, and then 10 minutes later I say, no, you're not allowed that. Plus I want you to give that water back. So we regurgitate that out. Yeah, I mean, I just a crude example, but the reality is this, that they've been allowed to come to this country perfectly legally. Nobody's illegal here. We're talking about legal immigrants.
Correct.
They come to this country, and now after 50, 60 years, the government decided, we want to go back to our, we want to bring in a policy that undermines your status, and we want to apply retrospectively. We're not applying it going forward, we're applying it retrospectively.
It's not even practical. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I get that, but I tell you what, I just want to pick up from where you said. So as the week has gone on, and we have multiple apologies, and we're hearing stories about the people who've been affected by this, and so on and so forth. I'll tell you where we're at now. The government has set up a task force in response to this this saga, and what they're saying is, if you've been affected, approach us, and if you need any documentation, you don't need to pay for it.
Yeah, but they've destroyed it. Yeah, no. They actively destroyed the land. They took an active decision to destroy the landing card. Yeah. What they were going to say? And somebody rings up and they say, oh, you're not in the system. Like this, I was listening to one lady who's probably in her 80s now, and she said, of course I won't be in your system because computers weren't around in those days. I mean, that's the reality.
But we're also seeing a reality of the racism which has been this policy has been festering slowly through different narratives. We've been seeing this tightening of controls, whereby we've had a situation where we've allowed. I'll give you an example here. I'm quoting from an article in Independent, in which I quote: "The problem is, it's the way in which discussion is being discussed. Immigration is being discussed." By the establishment, which has led to a place where immigrant is intertwined with minority, which is intertwined with non-white, which is then intertwined with bad. Now we've got to a situation where so many people have jumped onto this, so many different outlets and ways and means have all jumped on this, and we're at this situation where legal British citizens are being shunned out of their door, who, like you said, at the beginning had a difficult start in this country, then built a life for themselves, who are now in their late 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever it may be, and might have issues, health, and so on and so forth, are now being shipped out. Where are they going to go? I mean, there was an interview with one guy, he said, look, I don't know Jamaica. I don't know this country in the Caribbean. I don't know that. I don't know anybody there. You know, I only know Britain.
I mean, these are British citizens.
The process starts... You know, and I quote this in the same article, the process starts with calling people who blow dog whistles and the politicians that pander to them out for what they are.
Yeah.
Racists.
Yeah. I mean, David Lemmy put it bluntly and clearly.
He was fantastic in comments.
He said, you lay down with dogs, you'll end up with fleas.
Absolutely.
And this is the point that the Conservative Party has got a history of xenophobia and racism and policies to that extent, actually, quite honestly. And right now it's pandering to the far right. It has done in its entire history, pretty much. It is doing so now. It did it during the Brexit time. I mean, this is it's contrary to an average British person's sensibility to have this kind of overt discrimination against people who have been living in this country legally for the last 50 or 60 years. Where does Theresa May and Amber Rudd and those people, how do they sleep at night, quite honestly? I mean,
I agree with you.
You know, they have destroyed people's lives, people's jobs, people's healths. You know, people can't get NHS treatment if they need it. And many people have been deported, forced deportation. Right. They're ending in detention centres. I mean, you know, quite honestly, I want Theresa May to go and stay in a detention centre for a week, and let's see how she finds it.
Strong words. What do you think, listeners? Please get involved in the show. You call the studio on 01733.
Actually, she should prove herself as British. I mean, I want to see that.
Brother Hamid wants Theresa May to prove that she's British. So you want to see Theresa May's landing card. Is that what you say to me, brother?
Well, you know, for daughter of a Wicca, you know, that's what we were told. She's showing the least amount of compassion, which is a Christian virtue. Least amount of Christian virtue in terms of compassion and mercy, and try to understand the people. Absolute. I mean, it's disgusting.
I agree with you. You know, the other thing as well is, you know, this saga is, you know, it's brought to light the many underlying issues here with the immigration policy. You know, I understand that they want to clamp down on illegal immigration.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
There's no problems with that. We
fine.
support that.
I mean, a lot of these policies have come on the back of people. You know, I told you in 1968 the amendments were because of refugees being thrown out of Kenya. In this 2010 policy or these not 2010 policy, but these policies are brought in to create Britain as a hostile off the back of the Syrian refugees. I mean, the point is that our government is running to make policies to stop people who have nowhere else to go, have been affected by weapons produced and manufactured probably in Britain, you know, have been sold around the world, have been victims of this kind of brutality, and yet and then we're on the top of that, we're bombing that country because we have been these weren't the first bombs that happened. We've been bombing the country for ages, and yet when they with their families have nowhere to go, they look at our door and we'll shut it out and have legal safeguards. I mean, I'm all for preventing illegal immigration. You know, I mean, anyone living illegally. Although I do believe that we should have, you know, a notion of charity to people. You know, if there's a real desperate need, then we should be looking out. We shouldn't be taking, you know, 1,000 people a year or whatever the quota was under Cameron. You know, we should be looking more charitably. I mean, after all, we're a country of 65 million people. You know, if we were to take 100,000 people, it won't even affect our, you know, the bottom line. And actually, these people come and work and earn and pay their way as most people who
like the Windrush generation,
like the Windrush generation, people who immigrants and refugees and whatever, they do ultimately pay their own way.
Yeah.
But what stops us from being charitable, what stops us from doing that, is our own inner racism and xenophobia and pandering to the racists and xenophobes. And last time we did that, we ended up with the Holocaust, and that's the fear that we have in this country.
And unfortunately, ever since we've had Brexit, this issue of the racism has become quite overt now. You know, you see it everywhere, whether it's on social media, whether you see in the newspaper articles. Now you see Windrush, to me, is just another element, another step up the ladder of where we're going. And I do agree with you. This could potentially be now the beginning of something seriously ugly now in this country, because in 2019, when we all these other things happened,
I don't even think it's the beginning. Quite honestly, we're on that road, and these are just the milestones we're passing.
Let me clarify. What I meant was I meant from the systematically beginning, where you are now having, you as a citizen, you and me as a citizen, are being asked to prove that we are British citizens.
Exactly.
And that's what I meant. What I will say as well, though, there has been an online petition calling for amnesty for those who arrived in Britain from the Commonwealth countries in the Caribbean as children, of lowering the level of documentary proof required from people who lived here since they were children, and it's now actually attracted 136,000 signatures, which is good. Essentially, what we need to happen here is we need to see a line drawn in the sand by the government. They basically need to go back to the 1971 Act. And they need to.
Well, they should be applying this retrospectively.
That's what I'm saying. They should be. Right, okay. All the cases. Why should you? You've been here for 50 years, brother. You've got a social security number. You've been paying your taxes. You've got all these things you can prove. Why do you now need to prove anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy proof, isn't it? If your school records will show that you've been in school, GP records as well, and your NHS submissions or whatever, sorry, not NHS, the national insurance contributions will prove that you've been working from whatever time you've been working in this country. So it's not hard to prove that you've been here. It's just that the Home Office is refusing to take those proofs.
Yeah.
They are the bar for proof is so high that a lot of people. I mean, you don't have a utility bill. I want to know somebody who's got a utility bill for the last 50 years.
Is anybody
or whatever? I mean, it's just. I find it. I mean, it's a small number that relatively, respectively.
Yeah.
I mean, but the fact is that it's affecting people. It's affecting their daily lives. It's affecting their children and their grandchildren. And is the British citizens grew up and lived in Britain all their lives, worked all their lives, and now when they are old in their 60s, 70s, 80s, now we're saying, actually, you know what? We may have to pay pension for you. Okay. So we don't want you in our country.
The question I got for you then, brother, as we head towards the end of the show, I can't believe this hour has gone so quickly. Do you feel head should roll? Do you agree with Diane Abbott when she's saying Amber Rudd's position is untenable and she should resign?
I think both Amber Rudd and the Prime Minister should be resigning over this.
Well, we both know Theresa May
because it was under Theresa May's
watch
that this happened. Yeah. And it's under Amber Rudd's watch that this has continued.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think Amber Rudd should definitely go.
So both need to resign, and quite honestly, Theresa May is a mess of Brexit anyway. So that should be enough of a reason for her for a vote of no confidence to happen.
Okay,
but that's down to the Conservative Party.
Yeah,
and actually, you know what? Before we go, I just want to say that, and I'm not a registered member of Labour or anything of that nature, but I go say Jeremy Corbyn has been on the right side of history each and every time. He opposed the bill last time because of what he saw would be him, Diane Abbott, David Lemmy and others opposed the bill, 18 members, MPs, and now we are seeing the remnants of that.
Yes.
And he, quite honestly, a man of principle who has been on the right side of history each and every time.
I agree with you. Just for clarification, we have no vested interest in Labour.
But we have to speak. If there's right, you speak right.
Absolutely.
If Theresa May does something good, I'm more than happy to come on and say, well on her, good on her.
Yeah.
But right now we haven't seen any of that. So
far from it, actually.
Yeah, far from it. Absolutely. I mean, she was in the Home Office and we had the most draconian laws this country has ever had. And now she's a Prime Minister and she's useless at that as well. So
strong words. Absolutely.
They're not strong enough. I could say a lot stronger.
We are We are national, international radio. I'm sure we'll get that at the end of the show, brothers and sisters. What I will say now is, in an ideal world, like we were just saying, 1971 Act, what they need to do is draw a line underneath the sand. They don't need, as far as I'm concerned, to see all this. If they can go back and use the records like you just said, prove these people are who they say they are, have essentially put into the system as they claim they have as well, which they'll get from banks and their taxes and so on and so forth, and give some peace back to these people's lives, which I can assure you now they will be mentally scarred.
Why should the onus of proof be on them?
I agree with you.
It should be on the state. The state needs to prove that they're not legal. Yeah, the state needs to prove that. The people shouldn't be proving the fact that they're legal. And what kind of ridiculous kind of argument is that? But now the state needs to prove. I mean, you're innocent until proven guilty, right?
Yes, unfortunately, not in this case, apparently. But what I will also say as well is these people need their lives back, although they will be scarred mentally now forever. And I just hope this government can actually get its act together and help them, because like I said at the beginning, this could have been another set of people apart from the Commonwealth. But
okay. Are we finishing?
We are.
So I just want to do one shout out to Natalie Portman, who is an actress, and she has refused to pull out an Israeli award, and she herself is Jewish and Israeli, and she's
at a time.
Okay.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.